Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is chapter 37 of Shattered Image, and this one is titled, Thank God for Sero. Sero kind of lit up a little bit when he heard what you said. Oh, I can be those. He thought as his face brightened a little. He started, fumbling his words right off the bat. My jumper, he said. Yin Lin, a man suddenly said, appearing to your left with a few other doctors behind him, as well as your homeroom teacher, Aizawa. You looked up, saw him, saw a few others behind him, as well as Aizawa, and knew something was up. What? You asked darkly. He paused, observing your less than cordial greeting, and then glanced at Aizawa before speaking again. Would you mind coming with us? He asked. Before you could answer, Sero quickly spoke up. Yeah, we'll come. Right, Yin? He asked, with a smile as he reached a hand out across the table to you. You heard your guard well and truly up, but when Sero seemed so keen to follow suit, you relaxed a little and nodded. Yeah, you said as you stood up. If you have ordered food, don't worry. We'll have it sent to your room. This won't take long, he said with a smile. We may even be able to let you go home. Oh, you replied, looking at Sero as he took his hand meekly. You didn't know how to feel now. All you had wanted to do was just get out of this stinking place, but with Sero being here and home life not being too appealing, you weren't sure if you wanted to leave now. Without thinking any more, you followed the men and Aizawa, holding Sero's hand like a child, but you didn't care. Feeling him there next to you was very reassuring. But while you were feeling reassured, Sero was feeling elated that you were holding his hand. I don't care if she thinks I'm a big brother at the moment. I'm just happy to be holding her hand. Boy, it's warm. It's a very warm little hand. And I love it, he thought, checking out for a second just to be in his own little head about how good he had life right there and then. You were taken to a smaller room then, where everyone present stepped in, and you and Sero were offered a seat at a table, and the man sat opposite you with Aizawa standing behind him. Yin, the man said, I believe you understand that your situation is very serious. You have a number of charges against you, and due to your past record, the court won't look fondly upon them. You looked at him and then Aizawa and then back to him and nodded. Sero, still holding your hand under the table, squeezed it. The man, looking back at Aizawa, then nodded and Aizawa cleared his throat and stepped forwards. Yin, I've been looking into your family history, he said. You stiffened. My dad's side? You asked. It was a silly question, really. Your mum's side didn't have any quirks, so of course it was your dad's side, but you were a little stunned at that moment and the fear of possibly knowing more about them made you panic a little. Yes, Aizawa replied. There are not many of your father's side of the family left, he added, but we managed to track down 2. And? You asked eagerly, but with punctuation in your voice. You wanted to know. You didn't know what you wanted to know, but you wanted it, and the sooner the better. The 2 that are still alive have been in and out of jail for various assaults and other violent charges, he said. They've been diagnosed as having antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD. This appears to run in the family line and is directly linked with your quirk. You gripped Sero's hand and waited. So, you asked again, your brain scrambling to connect the dots. Although we cannot reach a diagnosis before the age of 18, there are a lot of signs and symptoms showing before that age. The man cut in. Are you saying I have ASPD? You asked the man pointedly. He sighed. I am not allowed to make a diagnosis, but according to the data and information that we have gleaned, as well as observing you, he said. Are you calling me crazy? You snapped, standing up and pulling on Sero's hand as you did so. Oh, Yin, Sero said softly, standing up beside you as he turned to the men in the room. I'm sorry, could you please give us a second? Your breathing rate had started to increase, and you were starting to sweat a little and mumble things under your breath, and he could feel you were about to snap. Hey, he called once everyone had filed out. Hey, Yin, look at me. Yin, look at me. He repeated, grabbing you by the shoulders so that he could look you dead in the eye, but you had internalized and was just staring hollowly and starting to mutter threats and all kinds of things under your breath. I'll show them crazy, you said with a manic laugh, and Sero felt like you were on the verge again. Hey, he suddenly shouted, getting your full attention. What? You shouted back at him, your whole body trembling. Hit me! He yelled at you. Without thinking, you started punching him, your sudden anger at the men being taken out on him, but he knew how to dodge and block, and so protected himself from most of your blows. But then, through your haze, you realised it was him that you were hitting, and you stopped, and he grabbed onto you, and that's when you buried your face into his chest and screamed. You screamed so hard he started coughing he could feel the vibrations of your vocal cords through his core. "Keep going," he called, gripping his arms around you and holding onto you for dear life. "Get it all out." You could hear him, but your internal thoughts had taken over and you wanted blood. "I'm going to kill them!" you shouted, screaming again into his chest. Over and over he held you, and over again you screamed and yelled until your body couldn't give you any more and you went quiet, panting loudly and standing still in his arms. "Why?" you suddenly asked. "Why?" What do you mean?" Sero asked softly. "Why me? Why is this happening?" you asked, vulnerability creeping in. "I don't know," Sero said, "but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere," he said. Suddenly your arms were wrapped around his neck and your face was buried into him, and he wrapped his arms around you and held you tight, the two of you standing there in the room, just hugging for the longest time. "Listen, I know it's not what you want to hear, but remember that I'm with you, and if you listen to what they have to say, then maybe we can leave here," Sero offered. "I don't know if I want to go back home," you said, into the side of his neck. He nodded. "Yeah, that's fair," he said. "Would you like me to be with you when you go back?" You nodded. "Yeah, I need you," you admitted softly, and it warmed his heart. He had finally gotten your full trust, and you finally admitted you needed him. "Come on," he said, patting your back. "Let's listen to what the men have to say, and then we can see what happens after," he said. Slowly you let him go, and he walked over to the door and opened it, seeing the men and Aizawa all standing around outside. You can come back in now," he said sheepishly. They all nodded and filed back in, taking their places again. The next half hour was spent discussing the court order that had been issued and that you were to attend, options for managing ASPD, and possible medication if you were willing to comply, and talk about what the future was going to look like for you. "I have all your quirk information here," Aizawa said, holding up a thick folder. "I'm happy to give it to you." You nodded. "Yeah, I'd like to read through that," you said. "I know," Aizawa replied. "Well, now that we've discussed everything," the man said, "let's organise your first psychology session with the psychiatrist here, and then we can look at discharging you." You said, not really knowing what to say. The rest of the afternoon was a bit of a blur, but by 5 p.m. you and Sero were walking out the front doors of the hospital with Aizawa in tow. "I have my car here," Aizawa said. "I'll drop you home." He added, "Sero's coming," you said, being interrupted by Sero, who had heard one too many of his last name being used and wanted to remind you to use his first name. Hunter," he said. "Sorry, continue, but it's Hunter." Yeah. Stupid Hunter," you said with a smirk at Sero. "He's coming to mine for a bit," you said to Aizawa as you walked to the back passenger door. "I haven't seen my folks since they came in to see me in the hospital, and it wasn't a great meeting," you admitted. "He's acting as a buffer." Fair call," Aizawa said as he opened the door to let Sero in. "I might stand back, but be present as well." "Yeah, okay," you said as he got into the front seat. Finally out of the hospital. Stay tuned for the next chapter, chapter 38, coming tomorrow. I'll see you then.